Hello and welcome to Seb Talks Money with Dr. Severin Bryan. Welcome back to those who are returning visitors. Today we're continuing our series on entrepreneurship, and we have a special guest with us today. Now, before I introduce her and bring her into the stream, I wanted to share our disclaimer. I wanted to be sure everyone understood that any information that we're sharing today should not be considered or relied upon as financial advice or legal advice. And we disclaim any liability in connection with the use of this information. Everyone's financial and legal situation is different, and you should consult a financial or legal professional for advice specific to your situation. This disclaimer is also included in the description of the video. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I want to bring my guest into the broadcast. I am going to share some information about her, and then we will talk to her. Her name is Toni Moore. She's an attorney and business strategist. She has over 20 years experience in business structuring, real estate, and asset protection. She owns a legal consulting firm, which is located in Pennsylvania. So she's not coming here talking out of her ears or out of her mouth, just out of the wind. She knows what she's talking about. The firm offers tools, tips, and strategies to help startups and established businesses and business owners formalize, structure, comply, and protect their business with confidence. So I know that you are going to want to hear from her. So without further ado, I am going to bring in our guest, attorney Toni Moore.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Now, you heard me say that we are continuing our series on entrepreneurship, and today we're going to be talking about contracts. And I know you know a lot about contracts. So one of the first things I want to our audience to understand is the definition of contracts, because with I see a lot of things going around in Facebook, for example, where they people are saying I am not giving Facebook permission to to use my picture and all of that stuff, and I'm like, you already gave them permission when you click and accepted the conditions of Facebook. So sharing that doesn't mean anything. So tell us some of the components of what makes up a contract, whether we think it's a legal document or what exactly is a contract.
Well, hey everyone. That's a good question with regards to contracts. You can have an oral contract or a written contract. You can even have a check of the box contract, because of the whole idea of, in the virtual world that we live in, as long as there is an agreement, a checking of the box, or even an action, as an act, the action becomes the acquiescence. Like, okay, well, if you create, like you said, you create the social media account, these are all of the things that you are saying yes to, and a lot of them has nothing to do with your privacy. And it has everything to do with the fact that when you are utilizing someone's business or their services or even their free accounts, then you are like allowing yourself to be open to having your information be used by Facebook or Instagram, for that matter, with regards to your pictures, your videos. God forbid, people are like, oh my God, they can use my videos. People are already using your videos. They're sharing your videos. They have no right to it. So a contract is pretty much an agreement, ideally between two or more people, with a general understanding of what you will and what you will not do in the line of business, right? And like I said, even with regards to the electronic act, with regards to people are always acquiescing with even a checking of the box or even an electronic signature, it's still binding you, because when we're in business and we're doing something and there's a promise and there's an acceptance, then once the other person gets your acceptance, then they should be able to rely upon your word.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. I'm hoping my audience is getting this, because a lot of times we don't understand that we're thinking that a contract is me going into an office and having papers in front of me and signing it. But we're agreeing to a lot of things that we don't even understand, even our credit cards. We don't read the fine print on those credit
Right.
cards.
Right.
But we're binding ourselves to whatever the rules of that credit card company, and we need to understand what it is that we're doing. Hi, Beverly. Beverly saying hi to us. So one of the things too is I hear the term freight, terms and conditions all the time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's good for us to understand a little bit what that means, because we're reading and we're blindly signing, but what exactly are terms and conditions?
Yeah, that's a good question with regards to terms and conditions. That's pretty much when you we're going to keep it clean. It's on Sunday. Because sometimes I'm known for giving examples that are like real to life examples. But when you have terms, I want you to think of terms like, how long will this happen? Will it transpire? So a term with regards to someone agreeing to doing your hair, usually it's like that one term, one shot deal. If you have a landscaper, what are the terms with regards to like the flowers? What if my flowers die in 2 days? What are the terms? Can I return it? Will you replace it? So the terms of our coming together, that is really key when it comes to contracting. The terms with regards to, are we going to be joint venture? Are you going to be a contractor? Are you going to be a subcontractor? Will you need some insurance? Terms online with regards to, I know you're a coach and I'm a legal coach, and the terms with regards to our intellectual property as it relates to our classes or our training. Even I have the legal box and a lot of people want it, and they're like, well, if I buy it one time, can I make multiple duplicates? Why would I say yes? So big as day, the terms are, you cannot duplicate my stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you want multiple copies of this, even if it is digital documentation, then you get my approval, because as soon as I find out that you duplicated it, I'm suing you, because based on the terms, it says for you and for you alone. Right.
Yes.
The conditions are the same thing. The conditions would be, for us, you're like, hey, I know I'm a financial coach, but I am, the condition is that you're not my client. I am giving you the education that you need in your business, in your life. And but it's all based on this free information is based on the condition that you understand that we don't have a client relationship.
Right.
You cannot rely upon my words without me looking in the back door and how you do business, how you do your money, your mindset and things of that nature. So the terms is usually the term of years, the term of hours, the term of a transaction, the terms of when you are using something like Canva. Canva has terms that most people ignore, but they have general terms of using their imagery. Or if you want to do more than a social media, they're like, oh, then you need a master's agreement, so that you will pay us more money so that you can duplicate and have license to use it. So that's really good with regards to the terms and the conditions of the yes. We'll just say the yes.
Yes. Now let's talk about breach of contract. Yes. I was reading some horror stories. Although this really was not in line of breach of contract, where, well, let me go back. Let me give you the scenario, and you can tell us, some things that somebody could do to protect themselves. I read a story where a lady had an agreement. She signed an agreement to be coached. She went through the entire process. She was coached, whatever for the period it was. I don't remember what it was. And she had to pay a set amount of money. And at the end of the period, she said she wanted her money back. And because the coach did not have language in there that said under what condition she could get her money back, she had to give, I think it was $10,000. She had to give that money back. So what are some things that somebody could possibly do to protect themselves in that situation?
Well, I don't really know that situation, right? But usually the law does not require you to give your money back after you do their work, because we already know that slavery is over. but there
Yeah.
could be more stuff, right? Or there could have been promises that the woman did not receive, because I tell people all the time, your sales page needs to match your skills.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're going to have some problems. So when your sales page doesn't match your skills, you'll have chargebacks. But when we talked about the terms and conditions, one of the conditions could be the conditions of relabeling, the conditions of getting your money back. Some people do have trial periods. I do not, so if you don't have that information on there, then there will always be someone who will try to get over. In this get over economy, even and with regards to people will always try to get over, always try to get the information, always try to rob, steal, duplicate, because I'm a God girl. So if the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, he comes in many forms. And some of them is crazy.
It does.
I'm just saying. So that's where you have the terms and conditions on you in your agreement, in your contract, in your coaching program. Even if it's a master's group coaching program, you have set aside the term. This is my promise. This is your payment. This is what the terms are of you using my intellectual property. If there's a problem, this is the conditions of you getting your money back or receiving a discount or you receiving like a sometimes people get like a credit, for the next program or something like that. And if there's ever any problems, then we go to arbitration. No chargeback. You should always have a no chargeback in your terms and agreement, because people try to get really tricky with regards to it. And you never know who you come against, except, if you're aligned and their energy and they start asking questions like, oh, I thought you was going to help me walk on water. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, we can't say 100% that we can protect you 100%. No lawyer can say that. Right. They can help you mitigate your damages. And one of the biggest mitigation of damages is using paper as prophylactics. That protects your assets. No paper, no prophylactics. When someone comes from you, then you're out there in the open. And I'm going to just leave it at that and let your imagination take you where my words will not.
Yeah. And I think that was the problem, is that she had no language in her agreement with the client as to what would happen if the client was not satisfied, what would happen if the services were not in agreement, that the conditions were met. None of that was in there. So the client took that as an opportunity to say, hey, I can get my money back because you didn't tell me that I couldn't get it back if I wasn't satisfied. Okay. And that's why I think it's so key that we try to make sure we cover every area and have someone with legal eyes take a look at those contracts and agreements with fine-tooth comb. Now, we are doing a lot of business online these days. And especially my business is online. I have a website, I have a blog, and all of that. And I'm required by WordPress to have certain documentation. What are some of the things that somebody online, someone with an online presence or online service business, what are some of the things that they need to consider? I know I need to have disclaimers. I need to have, service agreements. What are some other things that they need to consider, and why is that even important for them to have those things? I mean, it would seem common sense to you and I, but for a lot of people, they need to understand why.
Yes. So for the most part, with regards to disclaimers is not necessarily it's not a requirement unless you're a professional such as ourselves. And we have to disclaim, letting them know that this is, as lawyers, we have to tell them this is advertisement. I am not your lawyer. If you want to retain the more legal firm, then you, by all means, if you're in these jurisdictions, but that's our rules of professional conduct. That's not online rules. Online rules pretty much say that you have to have a privacy notice, because of the fact that the privacy notice lets people know what exactly are you going to do with their products and services. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to duplicate it? Are you going to send it to your friends? Are you going to sell it on the internet? Are you going to just put all of their personal information out there so other people can use it? They want to know what.
Especially when you're collecting their money, and you're sharing their personal. You're collecting their personal information. You're collecting their money, credit cards. Right. So you have to have something to say how you're going to handle it.
That's a privacy notice. and what you're doing about it. But the privacy notice doesn't say anything about sharing of credit cards and handling it. That's a service agreement. And also with regards to a privacy notice, if someone they're usually looking for security, like a secure website. And if you don't have a secured website, you probably need to get one. It's not hard. It doesn't cost you even $50 a year, because some people want to make sure that their stuff if there is a breach, then they are secured, right? And also when they're sharing their credit card information, and if you don't have one, then I always outsource. My credit card information goes to either PayPal, or with regards to like 3 other payments, right? Where you can pay and it's secured, where someone who's going to come out there and just see whether or not they can attack your information and use their information, because there's always people out there.
And they're out there.
But that's where you have like the security claims, right? The privacy notice is all about their private information, i.e. their email. Or if you have an online membership, you're probably divulging more information online that they have access to in the back office of your website. So with regards to that, it would be the terms of use. And really the terms of use really protects you as the individual, the service provider. These are the terms and conditions of using my intellectual property, right? Privacy notice is more for them. If you work with people in the European community, then your privacy notice also has to have a GDPR, for with regards to making sure that if someone ever has a question with regards to what are you doing with their information, is it just solely for advertisement marketing, but also keeping people connected and things like that. It's always crazy when people are like, well, I didn't know that you were going to tell me that you have a webinar coming up. Don't you want to know about it? You know what I mean? But some people are like, well, I'm just like, girl, bye, or boy, bye. But those are terms and conditions that people want to know. If you're in the European community, or even if you're visiting, with theirs, the GDPR, they pretty much says that if anyone wants to know, how do you use it? Are you just using it? Are you just getting my information for a webinar, or are you going to keep and maintain it? And then they give people an option. Hey, is this just for the webinar information, or do you mind being part of my community? And sometimes in the community, I'm going to tell you about the legal box, or sometimes I'm going to tell you about that I'm talking with Dr. Severin today and you should join us, And some people are like, oh, I didn't know it was like that. But hey, that's the terms and conditions, even with regards to cookies. If with the privacy notice, what do you do with your cookies? Do you use your cookies? There's going to be a big, huge pushback, because I get it, how people don't like it. And with the retargeting, they didn't get there yet. But sometimes once you visit someone's website, they put a pixel on you with regards to, oh, this is what we do. Come to my webinar, or get my my blueprint or something like that. And they'll put a Facebook pixel on it that says, oh, well, if they visit my website, or visit the sales page, or they visit this blueprint, this lead page, and they don't purchase, retarget them, so it's almost like, I always feel like the big brother's watching me. Yeah, those are like retargeting and pixels. And there's conversations, at least in the legal community, about whether or not people can opt in or opt out, and then some places they won't even allow you, because based on their terms and conditions, they're pretty much like, hey, if you get any of our information, or if you read our blog, then you are pretty much allowing us to retarget you and to follow you and to send you our ads and all this other stuff. So it's always good to know you do have options, because you can always elect out if you don't like it.
Yeah, because I know when I go to visit certain pages, I just had a webinar actually with a lady who is well known to create e-courses. And I was on a webinar with her and another financial person, and I am seeing her stuff everywhere on my Facebook page, on my everywhere.
That's on her Facebook. GDPR would be like, did you let people know that there was going to be a Facebook pixel where every time I turn around, you know what I mean? She's kind of like cyber stalker, commission stalker.
Yes, pretty much.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let me see. I haven't seen any questions in the comments, but as we kind of wrap up, any final thoughts that you can share with entrepreneurs? And I am going to share her contact information, because if you are a small business or you're considering being going into business, then you want to make sure you contact Tony, so that she can help you get your legal business together.
Right.
Because it's more than just, as I said before in previous video, it's more than just having a good idea, having a good service that you're offering. You have to make sure that you're doing everything in order, because you can work very hard, make really good money in your business, and you lose it because you don't have everything in place. So give us some final thoughts on anything that maybe we haven't covered that you think maybe a small business should consider as they go
Yeah.
into business.
Can well, when that'd be a whole different conversation about what they should consider when they go into business. But if we stay at the contract area, one, I need people to understand that contracts are not just forms. Okay. So if we had a scrivener and they were writing down the notes, one of the things, if I was in church, if I was in church, I would say, look to the left, look to the right, tell your neighbor that the contract is not a form. It's documents that is negotiated. So you can purchase a form, but the form becomes a rubric, as to at least an outline with regards to who are the parties, how much, what is the promise, what is the protection, and what is, if there's ever any problems, what happens. And more importantly, it also identifies, if there is a problem, what state has the governance. Because when you don't put that in there, then you would have to go to the other person's home state to sue them. And people do contracting with people all over the world. So you want to make sure that people are consenting to the fact that if there's ever any problem, that there's either alternative dispute resolution or arbitration, and the home state is yours. Because why would you have to go and find a whole new lawyer and go to a whole new jurisdiction to sue somebody for $1,000, where you have to fly out because you did not put that protection piece in it? So one, contracts
that is so key. So key.
Yes. And one of the other things that I need to remind people is that contracts, there's more than one contract. Okay. Just, there's more than one. You can have a sales agreement. You can have a ghostwriting agreement. You can have an editing agreement. You can have a musician's agreement, a songwriter's agreement. You can have a production agreement. What does that look like? You can have an agreement where you are working with a virtual assistant who is doing all of your creative works. And that virtual assistant knows that whatever they're doing for your business is work for hire. And then they have to then transfer the intellectual property to you. So sometimes people just get one contract and say, oh, Tony, I did everything through Legalzoom. And if I was writing a book, it would be Unzoom Your Legal, because we already know as professional women that you can't just go to a secretary, tell them to type up something and then think it's legal, especially when you have questions. A contract is something when you're working with your husband, you need to negotiate that contract. If you're negotiating with your friends, you need to negotiate that contract, because you never know on the other side of, maybe if they get sick, maybe if they file for bankruptcy, maybe if they get married or get divorced. Those are all of the life issues that should be considered when you're dealing with a contract. Because unless you're doing a one-time hit it and quit it, girl, do my hair, do my braids or whatever, even with that, if you're using chemicals, you would probably have a contract, a disclaimer. Hey, if you get COVID-19, don't believe the hype. It wasn't from my salon. Hey, if I'm using weave that's not from real hair and you get allergic and your hair start falling out, then that's a waiver and a disclaimer. See how it really, that's why it pretty much says, think of it like, if you're going to legalize your business, you're going to take out the time to legalize your business and formalize your business, then you darn sure better take out the time to armorize your business as well.
Yes. Yes. Yes, that is so true. Because another thing that people probably don't consider is that I may be in agreement with you in doing some business, but I don't know if you're subcontracting that business to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that everything is ironclad with me and you, but you're subcontracting to somebody else, and then the agreement doesn't work out because you're subcontracting. So all of those things have to be considered.
Absolutely. And you
So,
brought that up. So can we also just talk about the reconsideration with regards to, can your agreement be assigned to someone else? What if the other person sells, or you sell your business and you still have terms of years? Because some contracts aren't just like 3 months, 6 months. It could be terms of years. You have a terms of years. Can it be assigned to someone else? Or force majeure? Like a lot of people was like, oh my God, I didn't know anything about force majeure. Like just in case something happens, or there's a pandemic,
yeah.
or like or a disease that's going to shut everything down. And
Mm,
there was a lot of service providers like, oh well, you're not getting your money back. And some, because they still had bills to pay as well,
yeah.
so they weren't going to readily give you deposits, or this would just recently happen. Someone they received their deposit. It was a marriage. They received the deposit, but the wrong person received the deposit,
Ah,
and the couple broke up. But the person who
oh,
paid the deposit didn't get reimbursed for it. It was the other party, and the other party is not releasing that money.
wow. Yeah, there's so many conditions to consider, and that's why, folks, you need a lawyer.
Yes.
LegalZoom is not it.
No.
Sorry,
And
LegalZoom is not it.
they
They
tell you
make a
we're
lot of
not.
mistakes on documents.
Well, I mean, they tell you we're not a law firm. Like people like, I still have questions. Sometimes I'm like, after you have questions, after you set everything up with LegalZoom, there's a lot of my friends, and they're like, Tone, I get a lot of clients, who had their LegalZooms. They were introduced to law through LegalZoom. I was like, but that's literally like having your cousin Vinny type up the documents, really. They're not having the question with regards to, if someone dies or someone gets sick, who's going to have the intellectual property. Even I am an intellectual property attorney as well, do trademarks and copyrights. And people are like, oh, well, LegalZoom, I got mine through LegalZoom. What people don't tell you is that LegalZoom, like a secretary, will type up the forms and they will send it out to the USPTO. But then they tell you better keep looking at those emails, because there's going to be a question and you have to answer it. You can't go back to LegalZoom, because anytime someone is talking about, what's the legalities of a contract and an application of registration, they're like, oh, we told you already, we're not a law firm. If you have those questions, you go to a lawyer. And they
Yeah.
should also say, P.S. lawyers charge for their services.
Yes. I'm with you there. I'm with you there. I mean, there's certain things we can give you for free, but we went to school for this stuff. We paid money, so we want to get money for our knowledge too.
But you already know it's always that person who has one question. And that one question is like, okay, so is your mom involved? Is she sick? Is she 65? She trying to flip her house because of Medicare? You know what I mean? Who else is involved? Is there family members? I do estates and estate planning in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and it's always interesting, that one question. And, I'm 22 years in this as a lawyer, and I've been in the legal field since 1993 in various areas before I went to law school and passed the bar. And it's so amazing how it's usually that one question. And people write on that one question. But my daddy always told me, you always get what you pay for, because with that one question, and I tell people, as you with regards to financial coaching, they forgot to tell you that they were trying to file for bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
They forgot.
sometimes it's deliberate and sometimes it's not.
Right.
But, and then they blame you because they didn't give you all the information, but then they end up blaming you because you didn't know to ask all those questions that are so obscure that you wouldn't even think about asking because they didn't divulge everything they needed to.
Right.
Another thing that we didn't talk about before, which just occurred to me, I'm in some groups where we talk about things that we are working, we're working on projects. Like I'm working on some ebooks and some e-products. And
go ahead, ask that question.
And so I'm like, okay, I have to make sure that my intellectual property is protected. And even though it's a group of ladies and I trust them, there are certain things, if you're listening, folks, that if you are sharing your ideas, there's certain things you might need to get some kind of non-disclosure agreement. And I can't remember the formal name of it, to protect your ideas as you're sharing.
Yes, that's a non-disclosure agreement. Let me just tell you, the only way I can tell people the importance of it is that I know that there has been certain situations where people would be in masterminds, right? And maybe the coach would give the other person like an awesome and amazing idea. Know that ideas are not protected. So there's an awesome and amazing idea. The coach says, "Oh, you should do da da da." Someone else hears the conversation, they go onto their website, onto GoDaddy, and they get the domain, or they might even go as far as getting the domain and then buying and flipping that domain into a trademark. What can you do because ideas are not protected? So when you're in a
Yeah.
group situation, I always tell my business coaches to have something, a term and condition in place with regards to, as part of this group membership, as part of it being collegial, if you will. Make sure that give people 7 days, at least 7 days, even if it's 48 hours. I don't care, but just have people agree to it of a 48-hour window, that if I'm gifting this to someone because I'm awesome, amazing marketer, then you're not going to go around and steal it, because that's going to really be messy with regards to it. With regards to even ideas, I need you to understand that ideas are not protected. So even people who you like, love, and trust, an idea, like I was in a training today, and someone mentioned something, and another person like, "Oh my God, that's the name of my next book." Well, we don't know if that was the name of the other person's next book, but someone claimed it. You know what I mean? Because they put it out into the atmosphere. So usually when we're dealing with NDAs, it's because you're in a mastermind or group or collegio and you're bouncing off ideas, because ideas are not protected. If you're having a joint venture, like I have a joint venture with several women, and one of the hosts was like, "Well, I didn't know it was going to be this many people." And I was just like, "Well, I trust them. I know the areas. I know what you're trying to do. And I know that at the end of the day, that everything is not in my wheelhouse, nor should it be in yours, because we're not talking $100,000 program. We're talking like a $30 million program. So having that, knowing that there's going to be more conversations, and I'm a married woman, but I'm also an attorney. So my husband understands that I'm not going to divulge other people's information, but you don't know who you're working with. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who is looking and praying and asking for an idea, who will then turn around and use that idea, monetize that idea. Because some of us are just one idea away for having infinite profit from our intellectual
Yes.
property.
Yes. Yes. And so we need to protect it. We need to
Yes,
protect it as much as we can.
right.
Well, Tony, it has been a pleasure. I know we could talk all day because we chatted yesterday, and we could have talked all day about business and about
Yes,
money and about God and about all
yes.
of that. But all good things must come to an end. I
Ooh,
don't see any
Dr.
comments.
Severin. See, you just said something. Business, money, and God. Yo, that's a pretty cool podcast. You see, you say, "Oh my God, Tony, I was thinking about that." But you put it out there, and who knows? Somebody might be like, "Oh, that's a pretty cool conversation. Business, money, and God." Who's doing that? Us.
Yeah. Yeah. I still don't see any questions here. So I am going to wrap up. I'm going to share her website where you can contact her. If you want to want to talk with her, I'm sure she has different I know she has different levels, different package levels, where you can talk with her about maybe just getting ideas for something you're trying to do. Maybe talk about trademarks, maybe talk about having her look at your website to see if you have all of you're covered, if depending on what the service you're offering or the products you're offering. So please contact her at legallychic360.com. And of course, those who are going to see the replay of the broadcast, this will be on the screen so you can see it. Please contact her. She has the knowledge, she has the experience, and she has seen just anything that you can come up with. I'm sure she's seen it. So please contact her so she can help you get your business right. So again, Tony, thank you so much
You're very welcome.
for being my guest today. I really appreciate it, and I know that my audience does also. So
Awesome.
everyone, thank you for spending another Sunday afternoon with us. And join us next Sunday at 4:30 p.m. when we are going to be talking with attorney Timothy Peterkin about business formation. We're going to be talking about LLC versus C Corp, S Corp. Which one should it be? We're going to be talking about that next Sunday. So come join us again next Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the Sunday afternoon.